later today,
Yeah.
but it's because we're having a special guest, Louis L. come on.
He's currently covering the Chauvin trial, and so he's going to join us right after that. So it's going to be very interesting.
Okay, so we've got MD Music joining us, and yeah, I know we might. A lot of people are getting used to the different time. Right. I know my mom called because she wasn't sure. Hi, Roland, Jack, and MC Music.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you guys.
So on topic today, we're going to be talking about the organization with Reform Alliance, and Louis will talk about that more. This is kind of like a follow-up for us from the Day of Empathy when we tried to celebrate and get people to come on and be sensitized about prison reform and criminal justice reform. And so he's still at it. And so we're I guess, evidence of that somewhat is this trial with George Floyd's killer cop. I guess that's the right term.
Don't say that.
Don't say that? Okay. Who killed him, and he's on trial for that.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an exciting day. I want you to remember that you can find us on YouTube under, what is it under Wax Tracks or?
No, Vicki McLautayad.
Oh, okay.
You can find us there. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. We've got Lisa Collins from LA Focus, and Jackie Mack is in the house. My cousin, Angela Miller.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of great people. So, yeah, we're going to be discussing the trial and so many other things that are going on today. We also want to give a shout of love out to DMX's family today with him passing a few hours ago, I guess, earlier this morning.
They decided to take him off of life support. It's been a very difficult decision since the Friday before Easter. So.
Yeah, that is just so hard. That's just a really hard thing. So we're really praying for the family. You know, I heard some really crazy things, like a friend of him introduced him to some weed laced with.
He was 12 years old, and an older man who was about in his 30s told him to smoke some weed, and he didn't want to, and he kind of like egged him into doing it, and he found out later that it was laced with crack.
And he never got over that.
It will mess with his body.
Yeah, his body and everything. Hi, Cousin Stacy, and it was just a really hard thing. I like to tell people to keep their bad habits to themselves, please. Don't turn people on to your dirty habits.
Hey.
We're finally getting a chance to talk to each other in person. Oh my goodness!
Listen.
I've been using him because his emojis have masks on, and I think it's so cool.
Yeah, look, my heart is full right now. I wish I can be in the car with you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you, and I appreciate being on with you.
Oh, we appreciate and are honored that you're having us now. I've got this thing where I write something about what I feel about a person, and I want you to hear what I wrote about you.
Oh, look, I'm all ears.
Okay, all right. So, yes, Louis L. Reed is a barrier breaker. He has astonishingly gone from a family being in the prison system to the main man in prison reform. How has he gone from 14 years in prison to being a champion, setting others free when he got out? I want to know. How does one go from standing in front of a warden to standing with great people on the other side, working with Jay-Z, Van Jones, Meek Mills, Kim Kardashian, and others, working on inequities in the prison system? I want to know how you did that. I want to know how you went from the big house to the White House. That's what I want to know. I want to know how you've worked with presidents and political leaders on both sides of the aisle for true prison reform. I want to know what happens, how you did it, and I'm sure everyone else wants to know too. Welcome, Mr. Louis L. Reed.
Well, Strong J, Strong J. Listen, look, I don't want to make your husband mad, but look, you got my heart full of something right now. I'm telling you, girlfriend.
Amen. Well, I want you to know today. I know you've been talking to a lot of people, but I want you to know you're with your people today, and we want to shout hallelujah.
Amen. Amen.
Be excited with you for what God has allowed you to accomplish. It's
Thank you.
amazing. I don't know.
And we want to support you because, you know, it takes a lot of energy, man, to do what you do. And you got, you feeding a lot of people, and somebody's got to feed you. So we want to encourage you and support you in your work, man.
Thank you. So so look, let me say this. You know, a lot of people ask, what is the magic? What's the panacea? What is the, like the secret sauce in a lot of the stuff that I do and how I landed where I am? And the fact of the matter is that it's only faith. When I was incarcerated, I had my road to Damascus experience. You know, when I happened to read my word, I'm talking about the Holy Bible, when I was in solitary confinement, and I literally saw the transformation of who Christ was in that moment. And I know that God shines in dark places. His light shines the brightest in the darkest of places.
Yes, right.
And so, I embarked on a journey, not just on a journey to change the system, but, I embarked on a journey to follow the revolutionary footsteps of Christ. I mean, when you think about it, Jesus was a transformer, right? Like, what's front and center right now today is the Derek Chauvin trial in the killing of George Floyd. But truth be told, Jesus literally put the entire Roman criminal legal system on trial when he was excessively prosecuted and disproportionately sentenced. Jesus was concerned about the least of these, and the least of these weren't individuals who were on Wall Street. It wasn't people who was in the White House. In fact, it's the people who are in the prison house. And so when I think about the extension of my ministry is called to people who are broken. My ministry is called to people who look like the reflection of myself. I might be able to put on a suit. I might be able to frame one or two sentences together, but the fact of the matter is that I come from a very broken place, and I'm still dealing with fragments of that brokenness. And so everything that I do, every person that I have a conversation with, every bill that I advocate for, every place that I go in, I'm always bringing those people who are still on the side of the road, begging, Lord, have mercy on me. Begging for somebody to, for somebody to give them their attention. And I'm the person, to pause, to have those Selah moments, to say, brother, you are not alone. Sister, you are not alone. And I bring those people into places with me.
Woo, that's, oh gosh. I mean, you're amazing to me. You are really a miracle, and I read a little bit about your background and your parents and all that, but I'd like you to share that because, a lot of times people look at us, especially as Christians, they want us to be perfect. They want to think everything is just everything. We never make mistakes, nothing ever happens. But tell us, I mean, I was crying just thinking about what you've gone through in particular, but share it with people just to give them a little background.
Yeah, so I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Bridgeport is the largest city in Connecticut. I'm about 45 minutes outside of New York, so I'm in the New York market. Bridgeport is the Compton equivalent of California. It's the South Side of Chicago equivalent of Illinois, et cetera. And so I grew up in the 1990s crack cocaine laden streets of Bridgeport. When I was approximately 5 years old, both of my parents were indicted by the United States federal government and sentenced to a term of imprisonment. My mother serving 5 years and my father serving approximately 7 years. So I was raised by my maternal grandmother. And then, so my introduction to the criminal legal system didn't begin when I was approximately 3 years old, and I myself was sentenced to almost 16 years in federal prison. I was introduced into the prison system long before we heard what was called the school to prison pipeline.
Right.
And so when, and having grown up in the era that I grew up in, you know, I was literally just telling somebody this last night. I know more people who were killed in the street than I know who graduated, who even, not let alone graduated college, who even went to college. When I was 13 years old, my sister was shot in the face. Thank God she's still here, but she was shot in the face by her then boyfriend. When I was 14 years old, I was shot in my chest and I had to relearn how to walk. When I was 15 years old, a friend of mine, he was shot in his head 6 times. Down a block from where I was. When I was 16 years old, my cousin, my first cousin, was shot in front of his mother 32 times. He was shot 32 times, shot and killed in front of his mother. When I was approximately 21 years old, my brother was shot in the back of his head. Thank God he survived that incident. And then when I was 22 years old, I participated in a drive-by shooting that then left a 5-year-old child seriously injured. And so, which ultimately contributed to my federal prison incarceration. And so when I think about the trajectory of life that landed me where I am, having 2 parents that went to federal prison, having had a nephew that I lost 6 months prior to me having been released, and everything else that was aforementioned, I know that it was nothing but the grace of God that landed me where I am. It's nothing, and so I'm the personification of grace, and it's not because I'm special, right? It's not because it's because I'm extraordinary. I'm actually more ordinary than most. It's just because God is extraordinary.
And God can take ordinary and make something special out of it.
That's right. And so the work that I do specific to criminal legal reform, to criminal justice reform, this is not necessarily about Black, brown, and poor white people being incarcerated. Mm-hmm. This is about really trying to dismantle a system of injustice that the spirit of the enemy has operated through in order to keep Black, brown, and poor white bodies incarcerated. Right. And so for some folks, right, like this is something that is in the natural, but for me, this is something that's in the supernatural. So when we talking about, legislation that we're trying to get passed, right, I'm on my knees praying. When we talking about going into the White House, right, like I'm groaning in the spirit, but when I'm in the Oval Office, when we're talking about meeting with legislators, and even when we're talking about being connected with people who got access to resources and power, and affluence, influence, etc., right? I'm bringing the Spirit of God. I'm trying to do my very best to bring the Spirit of God into those conversations so that they can see. If not, for the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah. Well, you messing with me right now, because I could tear up this car right now, just shouting hallelujah. I mean, you think you're not special, but you are special, and God chose you for this time. I mean, when I think that how you called us about the Day of Empathy, which was March 2nd, we are so honored that you did that, and we want to know about other things you're doing, because we've got people here who are prayer warriors that will pray with you and will do other things to join with you. We want to know and support you in that kind of way. And we want to thank you also for the certificate that you sent us. We really appreciate the certificate, and how we've got powerful people. I know it may not look like many, but we've got strong people that want to stand with you in what you're doing. Because, I mean, you went to prison, and I want to know. See, there's all these things I want to know about you.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, you you matriculated. You know, you have two BAs, a bachelor, master.
That
So in
got
other words,
in.
not only are you in a position to be anointed to be an qualified.
Noise. Do we hear?
Yes. Yeah, so look, I'm a licensed clinician. One of the things that my grandmama taught me is that, you never lead a conversation with your education or your title, because sometimes people calculate the level of respect that they give you based on that. And so anytime I lead a conversation, I always want to lead a conversation based off my experience. Not because I got more degrees than a thermometer, not because I matriculated through the university from the upper echelons of society, none of that stuff, right? I want you to know Louis L. Reed, the person who is in prison, the person who has been redeemed, the person who is, trying every day to be transformed by the renewing of his mind. That's what I want you to know. But specifically to answer your question, I'm a licensed clinician, non-practicing in the state of Connecticut, specializing in substance abuse. And the reason why I specifically got into that particular field was because my mom, what I didn't tell you is that when my mom was released from her term of imprisonment, not only was her life diminished by a federal prison sentence, but her life was even further diminished by substance abuse. There was something that was called, the crack epidemic. For a period of years, my mother went on that roller coaster ride of heroin use, of crack cocaine use, and ultimately she landed in a place of full recovery. And when I was incarcerated, I said to myself, number one, what field would I be able to get involved with where my criminal history wouldn't be as prohibitive as in other fields? And so I chose substance abuse. I myself, I have never struggled with substance abuse, but I know what it's like to be addicted. I know what it's like to be addicted to a lifestyle. I know what it's like to be addicted to validation. I know what it's like to be addicted to relationship. I know what it's like to be addicted to the opinions and or the criticism of other people. So I wanted to, help hurting people. And from there, my career was springboarded. It was springboarded into the work that I'm doing now. It brought me through some valleys. One of which happened to be after I was released from incarceration after serving nearly 14 years in federal prison. I began my career as a social worker, and from there, my passion just wasn't satisfied. So I ultimately convinced the city of Bridgeport to not only open up a government office of reentry affairs, but I was the inaugural reentry director. I was in that position for approximately 2 years. We had national success. We won an award for best reentry practices by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Like, I'm in my professional stride. And then I tripped over myself. The mother of my then 21-year-old daughter brought me back to court for child support arrears that accrued while I was incarcerated. And I was rearrested. And not only was I rearrested, but I slipped into a clinical depression where I had suicidal ideation. I did not want to live because I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed. It felt like, I was it just felt like I was in an echo chamber. Everybody from the city of Bridgeport was talking about me. They were sharing an article, and I just felt like a personal embarrassment. I felt like a public success with a private failure. And literally, let me tell you something, literally when I was in the back seat of my car and I bought some over-the-counter sleep aids and I was going to swallow it, and I had, composed some texts to some people, and right before I pressed send on my phone, I heard something. It came from the book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 8. And it wasn't in grand fashion. The lightning didn't flash, and the thunder didn't roar, and the sea didn't crash against the seashore. The waters didn't crash against the seashore. It was very, very, very quiet. And it said, "Rejoice not against me, O my enemies. For when I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. And when I fall, I shall rise again." And
That's a good scripture, bro.
that has literally When I say literally, you know, I'll be telling another version of my testimony at a later point in time. But when I say Micah has literally given me life, and it has produced life out of me, it has literally given me life, and I have produced life out of me. And so, you know, when I the work that I do now, I work for the Reform Alliance. I'm a week into that role. Reform Alliance.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Tell us some of the esteemed people that you're working with too.
Yeah. So our board at the Reform Alliance is comprised of Jay-Z, Meek Mill, who, you know, his journey through probation and the technical violation that he got. Michael Rubin, who owns the Philadelphia 76ers. Robert Ed Smith, a Black billionaire. My former boss over at Dream Court Justice, and a big mentor of mine, Van Jones. And also a guy that you probably heard of. I don't know if you are as familiar with him as the other name, but a guy by the name of Jay-Z. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I don't know. He sounds like that might be. And I mean,
yeah.
How did that happen? You look at your life, and all of a sudden you're around people that everybody wants to be around, and in a legitimate kind of way. How did that happen?
Yeah, I can tell you how that happened. Your gifts will make good room for you and bring you before great men. That's it.
Yeah.
It was nothing but the Lord. It was nothing but hard work, smart advocacy. And, you know, I would be remiss not to even say that there was, you know, a lot of people who helped me along the way, including our new CEO, Robert Rooks, including Van Jones, including Jessica Jackson, who I have the great privilege of having worked for on the Cut 50 side of our family. And by the way, we end up passing the biggest criminal justice reform bill in a generation through the First Step Act that President Trump signed into law. And we have since released more than 15,000 people on the Cut 50 side of things. And so, you know, when you ask me how did that happen, you know, these were things that I prayed about when I was incarcerated. When everybody else was sleeping, I was up studying. When everybody else was in the gym, right? Like I was working on my intellectual property. When everybody else was spending money on commissary and buying honey buns and peanut butter and all of that other stuff, I was investing into my future. And there were a whole bunch of other people like me who were doing the same things. And so where I am is a reflection of what I prepared for. And I often tell people, family, look, you know, there's a difference between being ready for something and being prepared for it. And I just try to prepare for where I am. And every night when I lay down, you know, later than most, and every morning when I'm getting up earlier than most, it's because I'm trying to be the best. And I'm not the best in what the work that I'm doing, but I'm trying to be the best representation of who God called me to be.
This is just, you know, there's kind of an echo or something. I don't know if it's on your side.
Okay, wait. Let me throw my headphones on and let's see if we can fix that.
All right, okay. But okay, so we found out that you're from Bridgeport. I want everybody to know that right now we are talking to Mr. Louis L, who is now with the Reform Alliance. So gosh, now I messed with you. Now you're frozen. It's so, oh gosh, but we'll just keep going. So you said something that I read that was very interesting, and at first I didn't understand what you were saying, and then I had to just really delve into it more. But you said you never met any inmates, and I'm like, what? He was in prison. What's he talking about? Inmate? What? Tell the audience everything what all that means.
All right, give me 1 second.
Oh gosh, I think I made things worse. Oh, Vicki, I could just maybe you better take those headsets off. I don't know. Did I mess you up worse?
Yeah. My headphones is not working while I'm on the live. So look, let me say this. I've never met an inmate Because when I was incarcerated, that is the term that the institution uses to dehumanize people who are incarcerated.
Right.
Who I have met while I was incarcerated, and since I've been home, I've met mothers, I've met fathers, I've met brothers, I've met baby daddies, I've met uncles, I've met cousins, I've met aunties, I met godparents, but I've never met an inmate. And the reason why I've never met an inmate is because people are still people no matter where they are. You still belong to somebody. You are still somebody's child. You're still somebody's parent. And so when people call home, they don't say, hey, this is inmate such and such, mommy. What they say is, mama, I'm your son. And so, and the reason why I frame people as such is because we need to humanize people's experiences. No one should be relegated back down to the poorest decision that they've ever made in their life. No one, every person who is watching this live, every person that you know, everyone that I know has done something that either A, we don't want to read about on the front page of a paper, or B, that we narrowly escaped a jail term at best and a prison term at worst. All I got to do is search about 20 years into somebody's past, and I got to ask your ex-boyfriend, or all I got to do is ask your ex-baby mama.
You don't even have to search that far in mine.
I can raise my hand on that one.
It's nothing but the grace of God. And you're right, because we don't say, hello, I'm a liar, hello, I'm abortion, hello, I'm a this or that. You're right about that. So I wanted to make sure when I talked to you too that I don't use the word inmate anyway, but I was like, it was an eye-opening for me in terms of how to look at people, and that was so important. But there was another thing you got. What is it? The First Rights Act.
That was the First Step Act. Yeah, that's what. That's what I just alluded to not too long ago. And so in 2018, we were successful on the Cut 50 side of the work that I was doing. We were successful in being able to move President Trump. We did the undoable. We moved the impossible. We moved President Trump to sign what the New York Times called the most significant criminal justice reform bill in a generation. He signed it into law. It was a bipartisan legislation introduced by then Republican Congressman Doug Collins and Hakeem Jeffries, essentially to transform our prison system. Make sure that, number one, we had dignity for women who are incarcerated so that they would not be shackled while they were giving birth, so that they could have access to free feminine products, so that people who had crack cocaine, disparate sentences, that those individuals would be released. Oh, and by the way, 94% of the people who got released under the crack cocaine provision happened to be Black folks. And, we eliminated, we brought programs into institutions, education programs into institutions, because the Louis L. Reeds of the world, I shouldn't be exceptionalized. Everyone should have access to higher education while they are incarcerated. And so those are just a few of the highlights that we did in order to bring that bill to pass. And people point to the Kim Kardashians of the world, they point to the Louis L. Reeds of the world, who made that happen. But truth be told, that bill was brought to you in large part due to the people whose families had loved ones that were incarcerated and they refused to give up. People such as Pamela Wynn, who's in Georgia. People such as Karen Morrison, who's in Virginia. People such as Tony Lewis Jr., whose father is still incarcerated, who wasn't released under the bill, but he fought like hell in order to make sure that bill passed. And so it was the great work of people who have been impacted by the issue that got that bill over the finish line.
How do you feel about people who are tripping because you worked with Republicans and you went across the aisle? I mean, there are people dissing Van Jones and everybody because, you were working with those Republicans. And I'm like, come on. I mean, do you get into the whole?
Yeah, I I got two comments for that. The first thing is I'm gonna paraphrase Jay-Z. I got 99 problems with Republicans, but the First Step Act ain't one of them. Let me say that. The second thing is I'm willing to work with anyone against everyone when it comes to the liberation of our people. That's Van Jones's orientation. That's Jessica Jackson's orientation. That's Robert Brooks' orientation. That's our orientation, period. We want the liberation of our people. We want to get people off of probation and parole, which is our current agenda. And when we were working on mass criminal justice reform, we wanted people free, period. And so when you criticize Van Jones, when you criticize a Van Jones, when you criticize a Louis L. Reed, when you criticize a Jessica Jackson, my question to you is, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, you got to be older than 35 in order to really appreciate that that expression.
You're minded and miss the big picture here. We're trying to accomplish something, and somebody's willing to work with us, with your organization, to accomplish that. Why not? And so that's why I applaud your organization. Do what you have to do to get stuff done. And we need more, really. And then stop this bickering and fighting over petty stuff and just get stuff done.
Look, people are more concerned about outrage than they are about outcomes.
Thank you. I like that.
You got the best quotes ever.
I'm gonna use that.
They're more concerned about outrage than they are about outcomes. And we're concerned about outcomes. We want to convert these breakdowns into breakthroughs. We want to make sure that we are delivering what it is that people expect from us. And the fact of the matter is that here's the issue that we have in the United States of America. We have approximately 5 million people who are on some form of supervision, whether that's probation or parole, and these people don't have a springboard to success, but they have a trapdoor to failure. If they happen to have to go to the grocery store in the middle of the night in order to get their newborn some formula, they run the risk of being violated. If they happen to visit their grandmother who lives in the project and they get stopped by the police and they don't necessarily have something to pay, they run the risk of going back to prison. We need to stop that. And also, when we talk about mass incarceration, we need to make sure that we get the more than 2.2 million people who are in our prisons and jails. We need to get them out. We need to get them free. We need to make sure that the so-called punishment fits the crime. We're not saying that everyone has to be free. We're not saying that everyone has to go home. But what we are saying is that if you are going to prosecute someone, and if you are going to sentence someone, let the punishment fit the crime.
Let the punishment fit the crime. Yes. And so, yes, so many.
Can people hear? Let us know in the audience. Can people hear? Yeah, okay. Well, they're going to let us know. Yes.
Let us know if you can hear, because we cooking with Crisco this afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you still have your mom, dad, and grandmother, or are they still with us?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I lost my grandmother in 2018. I'm a grandmama's baby. My grandmama loved me. My grandmother would chew glass and walk over hot coal for me. So my grandmother.
Did you get to see some of your success and?
Yeah, without question. And I still have both my parents. I love my dad. That's my homie. That's the big homie. And my mom is still around as well. So thank God I have both my parents.
Oh, thank God. So they just must be so just grateful and happy
right.
for you. And I would be. I mean, I feel like you're my brother now too. And I'm just so joyful for the strides you make. What a smile! That's a great smile.
Thank you. Look. My grandmama used to say, "Everybody related ain't family."
Yeah.
And everybody whose family you don't have to be related to.
That's right.
And so we family. We family in love, we family in the Lord, and we definitely family in life.
Amen. Amen. I mean, it's so great. And I was saying, I love your quotes. You have so many good ones, but there's one in particular. There's another one I want to talk about too. But this quote: sometimes our people get caught up in moments instead of in a movement. Now, that was so deep. When we have these things like the trial that's going on, or when someone gets killed, we're around for that, but then we go back into our regular lives and we're not working on the things we should. What did you mean when you said all of that?
Well, Dr. King said that we have a 10-day memory.
Okay.
Oftentimes what happens is that when there's a tragedy, whether it's national, whether it's a personal tragedy, we have a tendency to go back to the status quo. We have a tendency to resume normal operations after approximately 10 days. And so when I'm talking about that, we are more concerned with moments than we are movements. Essentially, what we have to do is we have to learn how to leverage the anger of the moment, the hurt of the moment, the despair of the moment, the melancholy of the moment, the righteous indignation of the moment. We have to learn how to convert that into a movement.
Right.
What are we going to do in the now in order to bring that into our next?
That's right.
Right.
What are we going to do in the now in order to bring that into the next? What plans, what courses of action are we going to take? What laws are we going to pass? What businesses are we going to shut down? How are we going to change? Sometimes we want the situation to change, but the situation is designed to change us.
Yeah.
That's it. Yes.
That's good. That's good.
I hope you write down all these quotes and stuff. I can just find your quotes.
Yeah.
No, that's very point.
You
Point.
got a little preacher in you too, don't you?
A little bit. I got like a 7-year-old. I got a 7-year-old preacher in me.
Well, okay. Yeah, I think it's a little bit older than that. But there was something I learned about just from following you that is literally haunting me, Louis. And that's the way women are being treated in prison. And when I thought about trying to have I never thought anything like this could happen, but I'm in labor having a baby and they've got me shackled. I couldn't even wrap my head around that, because you need your hands and everything to deal with that. Tell us more about that. And then the other thing you were talking about with women and the time, I'm just going to break it down and be raw, when they're having their period. Those two things, you got to tell me what I can do to help with that, because I'm going to be dreaming about that. Let's talk about that further. Yeah.
So look, I've never been a woman. Neither, and neither do I want to be. You guys have strength that is nothing short of supernatural. You have the strength to love us hard-headed men. you got the strength to carry children. You have the strength to keep families together. You have the strength to pray for us. You have the strength to lift us up when we need it. You have the strength to walk alongside with us. You have the strength to stand in back of us. You have the strength to throw us over your shoulder, cook some food, feed the baby, get dressed, answer a call, and reply to an email, all in one. And so when you think about all of that strength that you have and how that strength is reduced down and diminished down into a weakness in a moment, when a woman is giving birth, that is something that is absolutely despicable.
Well, I mean, shackling the arms and the legs?
It's the legs. But
how are you supposed to have a baby with your legs shackled?
I've never had a child.
Your legs, come on, ladies, you got to get with me on this one. I don't know how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah,
That's what they're doing now.
There was a lot of states that were doing it until the work that I did with Cut 50. We passed approximately 10 dignity for incarcerated women's bills. But that's not enough. That's only in 10 states, and that's not enough. And so you have more, about 35 states or so who has some version of that, where they can essentially put that into practice. But ultimately, right, this is why we need the Vickies of the world. This is why we need the other women who are actually watching this broadcast. We need your strength. We need your strength behind the bills that we're trying to get passed. We need your strength behind the legislation that we're trying to advance. And so if you want to know more about the work that we are doing, number one, you can follow me. You can shoot me a DM, number two, or you can go to simply to reformalliance.com. Reformalliance.com. You go to reformalliance.com, you will see the work that we are trying to do specific to probation and parole. And if you want to get involved as it relates to the dignity for incarcerated women, you can visit dreamcorejustice.org or cut50.org. I think that is better for me to say cut50.org and people will remember it. That's cut50.org.
Now, did I hear this right? I'm still on this women thing because it was I've been dreaming about it. Like I was the person in prison. You tell me if I got this wrong because I'm hoping I've got it wrong. When women are menstruating and they use napkins, you have to take the used napkins to the
commissary to get another
or the warden, whoever, so they can count them so you can get more.
Yeah, so I discovered that. I didn't even know that was happening, but I had a conversation one day with a woman who was our former Dignity ambassador, Dignity director, I should say. Her name is Topeka K. Sam. And she talked about how she had to quantify her cycle. And me and my male ignorance, bro, I said, what does that mean? And she went on to explain that how when she was incarcerated, because the institution only gave her, for instance, 7 sanitary napkins for the week, she would have to use them, take the spent napkins, put them in a see-through bag, bring them back to the officer. He or she would count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now I'll give you 7 more.
Now I'll give you 7 more.
I'm telling you, that made me understand why we need prison reform more than anything. I know there are a lot more important subjects, but that hit me so hard, I literally dreamt about it. That is wrong and disgusting. And I don't know why something so simple hit me so hard.
Well, I mean, it should. It should be hitting all of us hard. You know, the reason why it hit you as hard as it did, not only because you're a woman, but you care.
Yeah.
You're touched by the feelings of the infirmities of people who, if not for the grace of God, that could be you.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's, I don't know if I could make it do that kind of stuff.
But yeah, this is like control. What it speaks to me is control, domination. So these are things that it ends up demeaning you, and and so you're already incarcerated. So you need to do things that are restorative than things that bring you further down. And
so, without question.
So that shows me that prison is about punishment more than trying to rehabilitate. That's punishing it reminds me of some of the things I heard about during slavery time, and it's just degrading.
It's like a justification to do demeaning things because the way they frame you. They frame you a certain way, so it justifies you doing. Oh yeah, we can treat because they're less. They're less.
They're less than.
Do that.
So,
without questions. So look, language influences perception.
Exactly.
Perception influences policy.
Exactly. That's well put, because how you perceive, even when we look at we'll probably start talking about the trial.
Yeah.
People try to, they always try to say,
what trial
well,
are we talking about?
The Chauvin trial that you want to, where you try to frame that, oh yeah, this guy was a drug addict. He was this, he was that, which in no ways justifies you killing him. You know what I'm saying? But it's the ways to frame a person to say, well, okay, it's not a bad. He should have. It's okay to have killed him because he was this, and that.
Yeah, it's all designed to dehumanize us.
It's a dehumanization.
I wouldn't care if whether or not George Floyd had more coke, crack, heroin, coronavirus in him than a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
When it doesn't justify anything.
It's not relevant.
It's not relevant whatsoever.
It's not the police job to try you in that. It's just to bring you message and bring you before the justice system. And
that's correct.
You can't just abrogate that and just kill somebody. You don't have that right.
But you know what, I gotta tell you the honest to God truth. I haven't been able to watch the trial. When the news comes, and I know you're covering it, and you had a show about it, but I can't because I just feel like you had your knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes, but you trying to tell me he might have died because of something else. My heart, my spirit can't take the possibility of someone getting off. I can't take it. What do you have to say to us? I can't take it. I don't want to
look
about it, but
I gotta say this. From my perspective, he didn't have his knee on. I don't even want to mention his name, but Derek Chauvin did not have his knee on George Floyd's neck. Derek Chauvin used his knee as a weapon, as a vice grip, to kill George Floyd. Period. Having your knee on something that's almost like incidental contact. Oh, you happen to be boo loving with your husband. You laying in the bed. Oh, baby, you got your leg on me, right? Like it's too heavy. Right. In the middle of the night, you got a child that's sleep wild. She might have her foot in your face. You have your foot like that's different. We are talking about an intentional act.
Right. Because it wasn't restraining.
It wasn't restraining. That was a lynching.
Right.
But what do you say to people like myself who I'm a relatively intelligent woman, but I can't. I'm getting numb. I can't deal with another shooting, another trial, and someone gets off. I don't know how to reconcile all these feelings anymore. I've got PTSD just dealing with all this stuff.
Look, I got to tell you this. Number one, stay away from the trial. Stay away from the trial. If you can avoid it, avoid it. The second thing that I will say is that you are not alone in how you feel. There are millions of people in the United States of America who feel the exact same way. The third thing that I will say is this. Rodney King, Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, and countless of other people.
Countless.
Amadou Diallo, Eric Bell, etc. Those individuals who were killed by police do not, in the outcome as a result of such, do not give me. I mean, even if you want to throw in Emmett Till, he wasn't killed by the police, but he was actually killed by a system, a racist, oppressive system that the institution of police operate under. I'm not enthusiastic about a hopeful outcome.
I'm not either.
So, as intellectual as you are, as empathetic as you are, this doesn't make sense. What happened with George Floyd does not make sense. And there is nobody who can wrap their mind around what happened to him unless you are making justifications as to what happened to him. And so, as a human being who has a heart, as a human being who's rooted in empathy, as a human being who has a functioning brainstem, you can't make sense of it. And I don't mean to laugh at the situation. I'm laughing at the absurdity that anybody is going to try to make sense out of what happened to George Floyd. It just does not make sense.
Right.
You can't. The science is going to make sense out of none of that. $27 million is not going to make sense out of it. So
nothing.
Right.
So I mean, I'm so thankful that people like yourself and Reform. I keep not saying the whole word right. Reform Alliance. There to do the work, because you had a show today that you're involved in. You're following the trial and.
Yeah. So I'm a guest commentator on the Law and Crime Network. Typically, when I'm on the air, you don't see me in a polo sweatsuit and a hat on. But yeah, I'm a guest commentator on the Law and Crime Network, commentating specifically on the George Floyd trial.
Okay.
So what's your take so far? I mean, defense is doing their thing. I assume that the prosecution has completed their case, they put their case down, or they're still finishing their case.
Yeah, they're still presenting their case without question, and then the defense has to present their case. But look, let me tell you something. Unless I see 12 jurors with afros, a dashiki, and a black glove raised every time they walk into the courtroom, I'm not optimistic about the outcome of this trial.
Sad.
How many jurors of color are there?
I believe that there are either four or five.
4 or 5. Okay.
So, what do you say for the people? I love YouTube and all that, and I've been paying attention to it more. But people of color are talking about even leaving and living in other places, even in Mexico and all that. How do you? This is a crazy question, but do you think we should just continue? It seems like forever to fight and to work, or should we try something else now? Or
we ain't got no. Listen, let me tell you something, sis. We ain't got no other choice but to fight. Fight is in us, and we refuse to quit. And the moment that we stop fighting, that's when we quit. And when we quit, the soul of this nation, the very soul of this nation is in peril. The reason why America has continued to shine the way that she has been able to shine is because she got the soul of Black folks woven into the fabric of all 4 corners of this country. Woe be unto America if Black folks stop fighting. Because when we fight, this country is in peril.
Yes, it's
when we stop, I should say.
I'm of the age where I can remember my grandparents fighting with this. I don't know if you knew this, but NAACP used to be a real serious organization. They'd be sitting in front of their houses with guns and stuff, protecting them. The NAACP. I remember that stuff. I remember my mother marching. I remember myself being the first Black person to do this and the first Black person to do that, and to go to an all-white school and all that. I remember all these things. And, when you look at the Jay-Z's and how much they've accomplished and what they're doing with Tidal and so many other things, and you look at Van Jones, you see accomplishments in one sense. When I look at you, I'm so proud of that. But
Thank you.
I am literally praying. I'm trying to speak well and everything over my grandsons. I have a 3-month-old and a 3-year-old. They're gorgeous. But I'm concerned about them. You're trying to make sure they go to the best schools, but I'm concerned that someone will try to dampen their resolve, and I'm just fed up.
It's enough to make you want to holler. It's enough to make you want to holler. You know, Van observed something not too long ago, and it was so profound. He said that he is a ninth generation American in his family. He's the first generation born free. He's born in 1968. His mother was born during Jim Crow. Her mother was born during slavery. His grandmother was born during the Reconstruction. And so when you think about what does free mean in this country, it's relatively in its infancy.
Yeah.
What are we going back, 40, 45, 50 years of freedom?
Yeah. My father.
When the country,
less than 100 years.
My father is 93 years old, and you should
Wow.
hear the stories he has to tell. And he's in good health. Fighting Korean War and then not being able to eat in the restaurant when you get home.
Yeah.
You know, not having basic rights. I get hope though when I see you, you know, out there doing your work. What do you do for downtime though?
Let me just inject one thing, and I have to go with Jesse Jackson on this one. And his statement is keep hope alive. You know, you can't get into despair. And see, I wasn't born in America. I was born in Haiti, and I know, you know, it has its own issues, a lot of problems, a lot of it, you know, they've been marginalized because they were the first Black country, and you know, we see it as individuals, but Haiti suffered as a country being marginalized. But again, you still have to keep hope alive. You can't quit. You know, like you said, I have to go back. You got to press forward, and we can't just give in. No, you got to fight. And if you fight, then God's with you. God's with you.
Yeah, but
and if God's with you, you're gonna make it. If you don't win outright, you're gonna make some serious accomplishment. Because when he told Israel, he says, "Look, you're not gonna kick them all out at one time." He said, "But I'm gonna be with you, and over time, you're gonna conquer the whole land." So, but but I'm with you, and just be encouraged. And so sometimes we have minor. Did you drop off?
He dropped off.
You dropped off.
We have minor accomplishments and minor, advances, but we have to be encouraged that God's going to be with us and give us the full victory. We just got to hang in there.
But, you know, I was wondering, the last question I really wanted to ask Louis, I hope he can get back on, is what does he do just to be a person, just to be free, to have free time? This stuff can wear a lot, I think, on your mental health even. So, you know, I've wondered about that. And, you know, I think we've met a really great guy. Don't you guys think he's very interesting? I'd like to get your feedback as we try to get him back on. Are we going to get him back on, or is he... Or is he just kind of went off there for a moment? We'll see if we can get him back.
So, I mean, I think he has, he encourages me. Let me put it this way. He
encourages me too. I mean,
so, we all have had thoughts of it. So how long do we have to keep putting up with this stuff? And then, how long do we do that? And, I guess the answer is as long as it takes.
As long as it takes.
And how we encourage our kids, how we bring them up. And I have to say, a lot of the young people now are saying, well, this stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, there's a generation that, just like our generation revolutionized a lot of things. This baby boomer generation did a lot of stuff. But this new generation is coming on. They're not going for this stuff. They're saying, I'm talking about whites, blacks, different, Asians. You got different people saying, "Hey, this is not working." Everybody needs to have a quality of life and deserves a quality of life. And even if you commit wrong, your wrong should not define
the rest of your life.
life.
Yeah, I was wondering when he went in. Was he a?
He's at 23.
He went into prison at 23.
Yeah.
Louis did. How do you guys like hearing his story? I mean, it's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
like to get some of your feedback on that.
We try to reach him out, so I think we're kind of, well, go ahead. We're running out of time.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of our time anyway. We'd like to hear some of your feedback on it, but isn't he amazing, you guys? Please join him. He's got 3 books out too, by the way. He's got
an award-winning book called 9 Steps.
9 Steps to Fall Up When You Trip Down. That's an incredible book. He also has another book, I think, I May Not Be a Lady, but I'm All Woman.
I was going to ask you about that.
What was that about?
What you writing about? It's not a dating book, I hope.
And he's got a book called The Year Spiritual Legacy.
No, that's the award. That's the award that he received.
Oh, okay.
For 9 Steps Up When You Fall Down.
Yeah, so remember to support him also. Yeah. And I guess he just we may not be able to get him back, but yes, Stacy, my cousin, I thought it was interesting, and thank you, Bespoke, which is Terrence, for liking this platform. We want to show just the depth that we have as people of faith, and we want to thank you for joining us, because we're just about at the end of it. And Shami, you have anything you'd like to say?
Nope.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll get Louis back on. Be sure to check him out on the Reform Alliance with that whole crew website.
www.reformalliance.com, and you can check out what he's done with the Dream Corps at www.cut50.org.
Yeah. And thank you so much. We'll be back next week. We've got Travis. Thank you so much. Angela Miller, my mom, thank you so much for being on. Let's support this young man. He is absolutely amazing. 2 BAs and a master's degree he got while in prison, and all the things he's doing now. Thank you, Judy.
Right. Support him, but it's basically the movement, the policies, the programs that they're putting forward. Let's support that in whatever way we can.
Yeah. And thank you, and we'll see you next week. Who do we have on next week, Shami?
Don't know off the top of my head, but you'll see it on my mom's page.
Okay. Thank you so much, and God bless you. We'll see you next week back at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hello, what's up?
Thank you so much for watching Carfitable Talks.
Thank you.
Please remember to press that like button, and we need you to subscribe. And also,
leave some comments. Really need to hear from you.
Thank you.